Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I'm going to be doing a full face of makeup that I never use. I do have quite a few products in here that I've used maybe once or twice, as bad as that may sound. So I have my Ariana Grande makeup bag right here, and I have a ton of makeup in here that I haven't reached for in a really long time. So I want to test everything out and see how I feel about it, because I honestly don't remember how I feel about a lot of these products. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get started. Okay, so first I have the BH Cosmetics Daisy Marquez eyeshadow palette. This one I have played around with a couple of times, but I don't love the shimmers in here. The mattes are actually pretty good. They are really pigmented and they do blend out nicely, but there's something about the shimmers in here that just don't adhere to my lids. It's like they don't stay. I don't know if it was maybe the concealer that I used when I tried this palette, but I am going to use my E.L.F. Putty Eye Primer today. The shades in here are really pretty, but for some reason I'm just not really drawn to this palette. So I'm first going to dip into the shade Dulce, and I'm going to apply that into the crease. I'm taking that on a Morphe JH30 brush, which is a really big fluffy blending brush. And these do have quite a bit of kick up when you dip your brush into them, but like I said, the mattes are pretty pigmented. I haven't had any issues with the mattes so far, at least from the ones that I've tried. See, like that one blends super easily. I haven't filmed in a couple of weeks, so it does feel a little strange. I just wasn't really feeling my best, but I do feel a lot better now. I started working out again, which I hadn't done consistently in a while, and that's definitely helped my mood. Next, I'm taking the shade Vintage, and I'm taking that on a Morphe M433 brush. I'm gonna start on the outer corners and blend it into the crease. So these shadows are actually blending out a lot better over top of the Putty Eye Primer. I'm pretty sure I used concealer when I first tried this palette, so even though they were pigmented, they didn't really blow me away or anything. So I do see a lot more pigment with this primer. I'm just taking that JH30 brush and blending around the edges. Next, I'm taking the shade Royalty. That is such a pretty shade. Hopefully it sticks this time. It was just so strange when I first played with this palette. I would apply the shimmers and metallics to my lids, and as soon as I would blend around the edges, it would just like fall away. So hopefully this primer helps. I'm going to take that Morphe M433 brush and I'm just going to lightly blend around the edges. I'm going to take a tiny bit more of the shade Vintage, which is that orange shade, and I'm going to reapply that. And then taking a little bit more of Dulce and just going back into the crease. I actually want to deepen up the outer corners a little bit more, so I'm going to take the shade Cocoa, and I'm going to take that on a Morphe JH33 brush. Okay, so I don't know if you can tell on camera, but the lid shade that I used, Royalty, it's just not as vibrant as when I first applied it. The eyeshadow primer definitely helped. It was a lot worse when I first played with this palette and I just used concealer, but yeah, I don't love the shimmer formula in here. This one is definitely a lot better than some of the other ones that I've tried, but not really loving this palette. I do like the mattes so far, but the shimmers yeah, I just don't really like. I'm gonna go back with my M433 brush and just lightly blend that dark brown shade. And I'm gonna reapply a little bit more of the shade Royalty. I almost forgot, but I want to add a little bit of the shade Bougie, and I'm actually going to take that on this Morphe JH41 brush. So just to the inner portion, and then I'm kind of blending it onto the Royalty shade. That shade is not really doing it for me either. It's just a little bit dull. I'm taking a little bit more of Royalty and using that to diffuse the edges. So I'm gonna prime with the Ulta Beauty Moisturizing Primer Spray, which I actually really like. I haven't used this in a little while, but I do use it here and there. This is pretty much a dupe for the Smashbox Photo Finish Primer Water, which I also really like. And I'm also going to be applying a little bit of the First Aid Beauty Pores Be Gone Matte Primer, which I already really like. I am going to be using a foundation that I've never tried on its own before. So I want to give it a fair shot and use it with a primer that I already like and that I know works with a lot of other foundations. For foundation, I'm going to be using the Maybelline Dream Urban Cover Full Coverage Protective Makeup with SPF 50. This is in the shade 128 Warm Nude. This one I've actually only ever mixed into other foundations because it's always been too dark on me. I do use the shade Warm Nude in the Fit Me Matte and Poreless foundation, which does match me pretty well, but in the summer it is too light on me. But for some reason this one is just a lot darker than the Matte and Poreless, even though they're the same shade. So I haven't been able to use it on its own because of that. And besides that, I have been kind of scared to try it. I'm just really bad at trying new foundations because my skin is so reactive and it doesn't like a lot of foundations. A lot of them just look very textured on my skin, so I rarely try new foundations because of that. But I want to try this once and for all. I'm gonna give it a shot, so hopefully this matches me a little bit better. I have been in the sun a lot more lately. Even though it's just my backyard, I do sit out in my backyard for like 10 to 15 minutes almost every day because I don't really leave my house, so that's the sunlight that I've been getting lately. So here is the foundation. It is very runny and liquidy, and I think I'm going to apply this to one half of my face with a brush. Or you know what, I'm just going to apply it with a brush because I do want a little bit more coverage today since I am dealing with redness on my cheeks. So I'm going to take my Eco Tools stippling brush. That seems to match me pretty well. My face is always lighter than my neck because I do wear sunscreen almost every single day. Okay, so far I really like the finish of this foundation. It does look very natural on my skin, and I don't find that it's emphasizing any of my texture or dry patches, which is usually around my jawline and the sides of my nose. I might have applied a little too much on this side, but that's okay. I'm gonna shear it out with my sponge. So I'm just taking my Real Technique sponge and just patting over everything. And this is going to take down some of the coverage, but I don't really mind. Moving on to concealer, I'm going to take the Covergirl Trublend Undercover Concealer in the shade M100 Golden Natural. So this one I do like, but I just haven't used it in a while because it is a little bit too deep for me. And I just didn't feel like buying another shade to mix with this. This one is very full coverage, so I'm trying not to overdo it since I do have a lot of coverage already from the foundation. It's kind of reminding me of Shape Tape, but not as drying, and it is pretty matte, but I don't feel like it's emphasizing the dryness underneath my eyes. I did have to stop using Shape Tape because it was a little too matte for me, especially now that I'm turning 30 in, I think, a week. I don't even know what day it is, to be honest. Okay, so that has really good coverage, but I'm gonna add a little bit more. I'm just in the mood for more coverage today. And I'm really liking the way it's sitting over top of the foundation. It meshes really well with it. That looks really good underneath my eyes. I like it a lot more than I thought I did. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get a lighter shade of this for when I'm a little bit lighter, but so far this is really good and I really like it. So I don't really contour anymore. I really just bronze my skin, but I did used to love contouring when I first started getting into makeup, especially cream contour. It was like a big thing at the time, but I figured I would cream contour today because I do want to use this Fenty Beauty Matchsticks in the shade Mocha. This is more of a matte finish and it does wear a really long time, so that's probably why it's a little bit harder to blend out, but I'm gonna try it today since I am already doing this full coverage makeup. I'm just gonna put a little bit. Ooh, I haven't done this in forever. I do have a little bit of foundation left over on the brush, so it should help to blend out a little bit easier. Okay, that blended like nothing. Why do I remember this being a lot more difficult to work with? Okay, I think I have way too much foundation left over on the brush. I think that's why it was so easy to blend out, but I want to keep some of the color on there. So I'm just gonna wipe the brush down. Okay, it is blending out pretty easily, way easier than I remember. I think I didn't go in with as much as I used to, so that probably helped. Okay, I'm gonna add a little bit more, especially on this side because I did have foundation when I blended it out. And I'm adding some to my nose as well. And I'm gonna take that on my sponge this time. I feel like this shade is looking more like a bronzer as opposed to a contour. So I'm actually liking the way the cream contour looks, but I don't love it. I'll probably just keep using it every once in a while so I can try to use it up because I have had it in my collection for at least a year now. I'm gonna go ahead and set my face with the Maybelline Fit Me Loose Finishing Powder in the shade 20 Light Medium. And this one I haven't used just because of the shade. It was a little bit too deep for me when I first purchased it because this isn't a translucent setting powder. They do have quite a few other shades in this powder. So I'm gonna start down the center of my face. And this is the Sigma F25 brush. I forgot to mention that. That looks really, really good. I think the shade works for me a lot better now. Yeah, I'm really liking the complexion products today. So I'm gonna take the Nars Laguna bronzer, and this is in a mini size. I have used this a few times, but I find that I really have to build it up, especially when I don't apply a cream bronzer underneath of it. So I'm gonna apply this with a Wet n Wild Pac-Man brush. And I'm tapping it in and then buffing it out just so that I keep some of the pigment. Yeah, I don't know if I love this shade on me. It looks a little bit, I don't know if reddish is the right word. Like grayish, reddish, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I would buy this bronzer in the full size once I run out of the mini. I went ahead and did my brows off camera just to save some time. I'm gonna finish up the lower lash line now, but before I do that, I am gonna apply a glitter to my lids because these lid shades just don't look very vibrant, and I'm not loving the way that it looks. So I'm gonna apply the Artist Couture Diamond Lights Finisher in the shade Diamond Bronze. This actually came with a lip product, which I'm gonna use later on towards the end of the video. This is kind of like a lid topper, so I did use this I think once, and I just applied it over top of a bronzy, smoky eye look. Yeah, that just completely changed the entire eye look. I probably should have done this before foundation and concealer and all of that, but I kind of forgot that I was going to use this. And it really adheres to the lids. It's kind of like a sticky formula. I think the reason why I haven't reached for this very much is because of the packaging, because it does get a little bit messy. That's just kind of how it is with loose pigments. But I'm gonna try to use this more often because it's so stunning on the lids. I did get a tiny bit of fallout, but nothing crazy. I'm just gonna dust it away. Okay, now I'm gonna finish up the lower lash line, and I'm gonna take the shade Dulce. And this is the E.L.F. and Kissa J4 brush. And then taking a smaller pencil brush, this is the Sigma E30. I'm gonna dip into the shade Vintage, that matte rusty orangey shade. And then taking the shade Cocoa, and I'm gonna focus that more on the outer corner of the lower lash line. And I always connect it up onto the outer corner of the lid. And then taking that J4 brush, and I'm just buffing around the edges. So I went ahead and applied my mascara and eyeliner off camera. This is the Milani Stay Put eyeliner in the shade Semi Sweet, which is a really dark brown. And I applied this to my upper and lower waterline. And then for mascara, I took the Too Faced Damn Girl mascara. I'm gonna take this L'Oreal Paradise Enchanted blush in the shade Bashful. There's something about the shade that doesn't really work with my skin tone. It's a little bit too gold for me, and on top of that, I do find it difficult to pick up with a brush. It's a really firmly pressed powder, so I don't really reach for this. I'm gonna take this on the Sigma F40 contour brush, and it's supposed to smell like peaches. Yeah, that's starting to smell really bad. I think it's time to get rid of this blush because I'm pretty sure it's expired now. Yeah, see, it looks really gold, and it doesn't look like a highlighter type of sheen either. It just looks like glittery. It's just not very flattering, especially if you have any sort of texture on your skin, which most of us do. Okay, now I'm getting more of the pigment, but the more I build it up, the more gold it looks. I barely get any of that peachy color. This is definitely going in the trash because, yeah, I don't like it. It smells bad. I don't like it. I'm gonna take my powder brush and just tap over it because this gold sheen is just, I don't like. And of course, I forgot that I was gonna use a liquid highlighter. This is the Becca Shimmering Skin Perfector liquid in the shade Champagne Pop. I honestly don't know why I purchased this because I don't use cream and liquid highlighters that often. I always forget to use them, and by the time I remember, I already set my face with powder. So I've used this a few times, but I don't know how I'm ever gonna get through this product because it does have so much in here. This is 1.7 fluid ounces, which is more than a typical foundation, but it's highlighter, so yeah, I'm never gonna get through this, honestly. I'll probably just try it anyway, even though I already set my face. Yeah, I'm feeling real risky today. It's this one right here. Am I looking too dark? I don't know if that foundation oxidized necessarily. I think it just dried down a little bit darker. I don't know. It looks like it matches me under these lights, but when I went to the restroom earlier on, it did look a little too dark. Luckily, I brought it down my neck, but I really am loving the coverage of this and the finish. And it hasn't really sunk into my lines or anything, which is a huge plus because my smile lines are always the first to show through a foundation. So I really, really like this so far. Okay, so I'm gonna try to pump this out. Oh, okay. That's another thing about this product. It pumps out way too much. Like, this amount was me trying to pump out a tiny bit, but the pump just releases a lot of product at once. So yeah, I don't know why I even purchased that. I don't even use liquid highlighters ever. So I'm just taking that on the tip of my Real Technique sponge. I thought I wasn't recording for a second. Oh my God. This might be a terrible idea because I do already have powder, but here we go. Ooh. Wow. That is intense. Okay, that looks really pretty. It will probably look better over top of a non-set face. Yeah, I definitely need to use this more often because it is really pretty on the skin and it barely emphasizes any of my textures since it is a liquid. But I just always forget to use it. I'm gonna apply some above my brow. And I'm gonna take that same highlighter onto the inner corners, even though it is a liquid. Hopefully it's not a disaster. I'm gonna take this on the Dominique Cosmetics DS05, the pigment brush, and I'm really gonna work the highlighter into the brush and apply that to the inner corners. Oh, that actually looks real nice. It's not sticking as well to my right eye for some reason. Yeah, I'm gonna take a powder highlighter instead. Okay, I'm actually gonna take the pressed powder version of Champagne Pop. They don't make this palette anymore. This was limited edition, but I figured why not use it today? I'm just gonna take that on the same brush. That looks super pretty as an inner corner highlight. I haven't actually used this highlighter in a really long time. I went ahead and lined my lips with the ColourPop Lippy Pencil in the shade Taurus. This, I'm pretty sure they don't make anymore because it was a Kathleen Lights ColourPop collaboration, but I figured it would go with this look and I haven't used it in quite a while. And I'm gonna go over top of that with the Artist Couture lip gloss in the shade Uncensored 2.0. This, I do like the formula, but I don't love the shade on me. It's just a little too light and a little too cool toned, but it does have a really nice doe foot applicator and I really like the minty scent. So I have to pair this with a really deep lip color or else it just looks way too light. So I'm gonna apply this right over top of that Taurus lip liner. Okay, that looks pretty good. So I do really like this lip combo. I hadn't actually tried it before. But yeah, I think that is everything for this look. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this full face of makeup that I never use. If you did enjoy this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you'd like to see more of my videos, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.